Thanks for joining today. We're excited to have this opportunity to present this technical training. My name is Gavin Minnis, and I'm going to be the moderator today. And I'm joined by our presenter, Skylar Patton, who is a Senior Software Applications Engineer with Texas Instruments. Skylar has been with TI for over 25 years, and his time spent working in our embedded processor business. He's developed an expertise in networking, serial communications, real-time Linux development, as well as silicon and board bring-ups. Currently, Skylar focuses on helping customers identify solutions for their networking and building automation product designs. In our presentation today, Skylar is going to introduce an exciting new development board from Texas Instruments and show you how it can be used in a variety of gateway and building automation applications. We'll be talking a little bit about why we created this new starter kit, who it's designed for, talk a little bit about the specifications of the board, how to get it set up, how to boot Linux, and even connect to a Wi-Fi network right out of the box. All of that can be done in about 10 minutes. So excited to walk you through all that and present this new starter kit to you. So Skylar, let's go ahead and get started. I think the place to begin is to kind of set a foundation for the board that we're going to be talking about today. So why don't we take a look at the board and talk through some of the new hardware features here.
All right, thanks, Gavin. Hello, everybody. So what you're looking at here is a picture of the new AM64X SK EVM, which we call Starter Kit EVM. And the intention is to provide a platform for you, the developer, to experiment and evaluate and think about your particular product. Looking at the picture of the board on the left there, let's kind of walk around the board a little bit. Starting in the upper left, you see this is where you plug in the USB Type-C power cable, and that's what powers the board. Next up, on the going clockwise, is the we're just describing we're using an SD card to boot the board with, and we'll get a little bit later. We'll show an example on how you can create that SD card using a downloaded image from TI.com. The connector that we're looking at here is a Raspberry Pi Hat compatible connector. It's not really intended to be able to mount Raspberry Pi hats yet, but it's intended to be as just an experimentation connector that you can access GPIOs, a UART, and other in the SPI interface, for example. And then the key part of also want to highlight is which is kind of the basis for the gateway kind of application we're going to be kind of demonstrating today, is a WiLink 8 module from Texas Instruments. It supports Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and we want to show that this has been integrated with the AM64, and you can get that with the TI SDK. And then continuing clockwise, we have two Ethernet ports on the bottom of the board. These ports are configurable from a switch mode to independent back mode. And so you can do this on the fly. And you can write different scripts that allows you to switch between, being overloaded there, being able to do a daisy chain like topology versus an independent dual MAC, different subnet configuration. Continuing on clockwise, then we have a USB Type 3 connector that you can use for connecting other USB devices, and also that can act as UART when you're connecting to like a CC Link device from Texas Instruments. Continuing on, we also have an XDS 110 onboard emulation part. So that kind of covers the basis of what's on the board. And the diagram we have on the right side of the slide
Skylar,
is kind of showing.
Sorry to interrupt, but if you could also point out the main cores that are on the device, the processing cores.
Oh, sure. All right. So on the AM64, you have the one we're showing here is AM6442, which has a dual core A53 Cortex A53 ARM processor, and then we also have 4 R5F Cortex processors that are available also. So you have the ability to do Linux running on the A53s, and then you can have RTOSes running on the quad R5Fs, and whatever application, how you want to split up your application. So the diagram there on the right is kind of highlighting kind of a dual subnet type thing for a gateway, and also showcasing the Wi-Fi capability. And we have a demonstration video that we're going to show you kind of later, highlighting the Wi-Fi demo. Okay.
Perfect. And we've got a technical article, a newer blog that we've written that specifically is covering the use case of this processor or using this board for a building automation application, for a gateway application. So I can go ahead and show that to you all as well. All of the links are going to be, that we're sharing in this technical training, will be presented at the end as well. So you'll be able to find those. But if you were to visit ti.com, go up to support and training and go to our E2E forums. This is where we provide online technical engineering support through these forums. We've also got a technical article section. And for our embedded processor division, we have a number of different blogs on a regular cadence. And one of our newer one here, you can see we designed a Linux gateway for you. Here's how you can put it to work in your next building automation application. So this would be a good article to go back and reference at the end of this presentation. Again, we'll put the link at the end, but specifically talking about some of the modern building automation requirements around connectivity, performance, security, and kind of showcasing how this new AM64X processor family is able to address all of those needs, along with, as we mentioned, now out-of-box Wi-Fi on this new starter kit. So we will put that in at the end of the presentation. So Skylar, why don't we actually switch over? I'm going to let you take over the screen, if you would, for a minute here. I think, now that we've taken a look at the board, got a sense of the capabilities that it brings for these types of applications, why don't we do a quick run through on the actual processor so we can see the performance capabilities and understand a little bit about its connectivity, peripheral support, and things of that nature.
Okay, let me take the screen here. There we go. Move that one over here. So I'm sorry for need to resize here briefly to kind of make sure it all fits in the screen. All right, so what I'm looking at here at the moment, at the beginning here, is looking at the AM6442 product page. And from this product page, you're able to get all the information on the AM6442. You start off with the data sheet right here, and this is where you can, this has the specific hardware features, block diagram, and kind of talking about, timing information and various things you would need to design the part for a board. The technical reference manual is what we use to describe how to use those features and the register sets and things like that. And then along the bottom is, not really the bottom here, but we have more product details, more technical documentation, design and development. This is where we would, this is where you get to the actual EVM and also the software. So I'm going to highlight first is that the hardware development part is that this is the board that we're talking about today, the AM64 starter kit. And then you would click this link, and I'm just going to put this in a new tab, make it easier to navigate. And you can scroll down, you can get all the information about the SK EVM here, and with various pictures. And then the technical documentation for the board is that you would have this user's guide, which I'll also bring up and kind of show you that. And then we'll switch back to, but this, and the 64SK EVM, this has this user guide, kind of describes everything that's on the board, including like how to turn it on, turn it off. All the table of contents here kind of covers everything you need to know about the board. And then let's switch back to the, I got kind of ahead of myself, is I want to also kind of highlight, this is a block diagram of the actual AM64 that's being used. And hopefully this is visible, but this is where I was talking about before. We have the dual core 853s, and then we have the quad core R5Fs. And then this other one over here is for traditional. I think that this is part of the boot up processor. But you can see there's all the different things within the part in terms of like what kind of on-chip memory we have. And then most importantly, especially for a starter kit, is the different peripherals that you can get that are on the part that are that you can access that's on the SK EVM. So let's move back to, now let's start talking about the software capabilities. I'm going to go back to my design and development. Now I'm going to go to software development. And then you see these are the different SDKs that are provided with the AM64. And I'm going to click on that one, and then we're going to go to excuse me, this is where there's multiple SDKs, but the one we're going to highlight here is the Linux SDK. So, and we would go over here to download options, and what I want to highlight here is this is kind of a quick access, is that we have, these are the different installers we have for, this is a Linux one, this is also a Windows one. I'm mostly going to talk about the Linux, but the most important one here that I think for ease of use is to click on this image here, which is what we call a WIC image. And if you're not familiar with that, this is a new style of being able to have an SD card image that you would use as a package called Balena software. It's a Balena Etcher. I think that if you're not familiar with it, I'm going to show it to you in just a second. But you can click on that and you'll download this this image. You can see I kind of tested before. There's another image there. And then there's this, I want to point out the other software that you would go to is that this Balena software that you can, this is open access. There's no charge for this. You would go to this particular website here. We talk about this in our documentation, balena.io.etcher. And then you would download a Windows, in this case I'm doing Windows here since we're for this presentation. This also runs on Linux. I've used it on Linux a lot. And once you download and install it, you'll get a window that looks like this. And this is what a complete image looks like. But if I wanted to, let me kind of demonstrate that once you download the image, let me start another one here. Close window. Give me just a second. Actually, let me go back to Flash another. So this is probably the best way to describe it. So once you download the image, which is that WIC image that I was showing you, you would select it. Then you would select the target, which I have. Oops, I was not going to select that one. Select the target. So this is what you get, an SD card reader, and you would put a fresh card in it. You'd select it, and then you would say select, and then Flash. And we're not going to probably go through the entire process of this, but but I would like to highlight that when I've done this before, it takes literally way less than 10 minutes, and probably in the 5-minute ballpark, is that you'll be able to program the card. As you can see here, it's almost taking the WIC image. It starts off compressed, so it has to decompress it, and then it has to then it will flash the card. But again, this is very quick. And once you have that, then we could move on to showing you how this you would take the SD card out of the board, and this is where, Gavin, we kind of like would show the video that we have showing the out of box. And so I'll switch to that.
And so, Skylar, when you get one of these boards in your hands, what's approximately the total setup time? You know, to get Linux booted, to get connected up to a network and actually have something running to be able to access the processors and whatnot. How much time does that take, basically out of box?
So from the time you get the box, you open it up, you get your USB cable, your Type-C USB cable with the power. You have to have that ahead of time. And I'm also going to say you've downloaded that WIC image that I pointed you to. See how you can say that, oops, I'm sorry. It doesn't usually happen. This takes, I would say, way less than 10 minutes. The bigger part would be to do that flash operation, and then we would be able to, and then once you plug it in, the board will boot it in less, I would say less than 30 seconds, you'll be able to see that. And you'll actually see that here as part of this video, how fast the board comes up. So you plug in the SD card here. And in fact, let's just run the video, and I'll talk over the top of it. And so you get the board out of the box. You plug in the SD card like we're showing. You plug in the USB Type-C. Sorry for being very specific about that. You plug in the board boots up, and then that's a little bit faster. There's a specific you can't see it. There is an access point that you would see that says TI AM64 SKEVM. You would associate with that, enter the password that we have highlighted here in the video, and then you see this web page come up. This is what we call our R5 benchmark demo. So this is a demo that's running with the R5s that are on the AM64, and you're able to make a couple of parameter changes and get it to run. And as you can see, that's kind of the highlight here.
So I'm gonna summarize really quickly for our viewers, because at least on my end, the video coming across, the internet is not streaming as clearly. So it's going to be good to go back and watch this demo. Like I said, we'll give the link at the end of this presentation. You can pull it up on your web browser. But as Skylar was showing, once you're pulling the board out of the box, plugging in your USB cable, you're then able to pull up, your phone, and there will be a default network with the TI name on it that you're connecting to. There's a default password you're putting in, and then you're accessing, a domain. And that's literally all you're having to do to get this set up and get connected and to be able to access those demos that Skylar was showing. So really the time-consuming part of this is getting the SD card flashed and getting that all set up. The board running, the board getting, Linux up and going, getting connected to a network. I mean, it's just a matter of a few minutes. So it's a very quick process.
Yes. Okay. I guess with the demo being complete, I think this is where we would, I guess, highlight the links to be able to get all this information from.
Okay, perfect. Take back over and just show a final slide here. Grab the ball. All right, so we've got 4 primary links up here that I want to draw attention to. The first one being the actual link to the board. So it's within our tool section of the website, and as Skylar mentioned before, you can get to this as well from the actual AM64442 product folder, which that's this third link here. So this is your tool folder link. Out-of-box demo that we just watched is the second one here. You can go back and take a look at that. And then the technical article that I mentioned, which we looked at before on the Linux Gateway for building automation. I would say that this processor data sheet page here, this third one, is probably the best one to just jump straight to, because you can access everything related to the AM64 family of processors, from the board to the software Skylar showed to related documentation and whatnot. So it's a really great point to kind of dive a bit deeper into the technical details of the product, get access to the products themselves. You want to purchase one of these boards and get started. So definitely start here with that one, but that should be the basis of all the information you need to kind of learn more and hopefully get one of these boards and start playing around with this for the building automation application. So Skylar, any concluding remarks for us here? We appreciate going through the board.
Sure, no problem. I'd like to highlight the out of the box nature of the demo, is being able to seamlessly connect right out of the box with just the SD card programming, with the wireless device, and kind of just to highlight that connectivity, that the integration that we have between within the SDK with other TI components such as the WiLink 8.
Yeah, that's great, and I think all of that with the Cortex A53s all on a board with all the Wi-Fi connectivity and wired connectivity as well for a $99 price point. Hopefully, it's pretty compelling for people to start with some of their new designs. So look forward to seeing what everybody can do with this new product. So we appreciate the time and look forward to having people spend some more time looking through the TI.com website and these resources. So thank you.